Welcome back to KETV Newswatch 7's Chronicle. This morning we've been celebrating the women who are breaking barriers and making a difference in their communities. Last month, KETV Newswatch 7's Catherine Garcia introduced us to a Project Community Champion at Nomi Health who's been on the front lines since the pandemic began.
Adriana Durate shows us a small spot on the bridge of her nose. It's from the N95 face masks she's worn to work every day as a COVID tester.
You've seen a lot of different people, met a lot of different people.
For 2 years, Adriana has been the smiling face behind the mask, testing thousands of people for COVID-19.
Durate witnessed every wave of the pandemic, swabbing, replenishing supplies, sometimes directing traffic.
The lines used to be wrapped all over the parking lot, up the street. It was really crazy at the time.
And sometimes she deals with some impatient patients.
They're angry about having to get tested because their job is forcing them to. So they just kind of take it out on us, but we just kind of brush it off.
Durate says she's always felt a calling to care for others. And when the pandemic led her to testing, she felt proud to serve the community.
Seen a lot of different people, met a lot of different people, hearing stories from families that have lost people to COVID, to helping people learn the differences of the test and how to protect themselves and protect their families.
Now, with cases trending down, she's mostly testing people for work or travel.
Very slow. That's good because people are hopefully not catching COVID.
She says, but she'll be here under the white tent as long as she's needed.
I've always liked caring for people. I like taking care of people because a lot of people can't take care of themselves.
Catherine Garcia, KETV Newswatch 7.
Joining me now is Dr. Emily Patel, a maternal fetal medicine specialist with Methodist Women's Hospital. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here with us. And you specifically work in maternal and fetal medicine. What is it that made you so interested in that?
So I didn't have any medical people in my family, so I kind of had to figure that out on my own. In medical school, you rotate through all of the different disciplines, and OBGYN just really sparked my interest. I really knew that I loved medicine, like internal medicine, kind of working through problems, but I also loved working with my hands and doing surgery, and it incorporated both of those things. So I knew that I would really love that area. I still remember the first birth that I attended, and it was a midwife patient. She didn't have any anesthesia, and it was this juxtaposition of intense pain and agony, then with the joy of bringing a life into the world. And it was such an amazing moment, and I just knew that that's what I wanted to do with my life.
Oh yeah, women are so powerful. I don't have children of my own, but that experience in and of itself is so life-changing.
It is, and it doesn't ever get old. I enjoy it every single time.
Now, the medical industry has come a long way when it comes to inclusivity with women. There are more women in the medical field, but did you face any discrimination or challenges when you were going through med school?
Yeah, I would say really where that came to the forefront for me was when I started a family. I have 2 boys, they're 10 and 6, and it was at the end of my training when I had my first child, and I had additional training after that to become a specialist. And I still remember one particular interview that I went to for my additional training, and it was not here locally, but somebody at that interview asked me very pointedly, how do you plan to do this, to be a maternal fetal medicine specialist and do all of this hard work that's ahead of you and raise a family? How do you plan to do that? And I think in that, that's just one small example, but I think in that moment, of course, I just wanted to answer the question and get through that interview. But in reflection, of course, the thought that comes to my mind is that would not be a question that would be asked of a male colleague. And so we have this kind of dual responsibility, or it's viewed as this responsibility solely on the woman to kind of take care of all of these, juggle all of these balls at one time. And so just small little things like that that I've experienced in my career certainly have seen that.
In that moment, did that even cross your mind? Had balancing the family and that very special training and maybe the inability, had that even crossed your mind?
I think growing up, it's just something that's there's just unconscious biases that we just grow up with, and my parents still tell me a story that When I was very young, there was a newscast on, and there was a female physician doing a story. And after the segment was over, I turned to them and I said, girls can be doctors too. So I think there's just a long history for anybody growing up that there's just these biases that you pick up along the way. It's just the way that society has kind of ingrained that. So had I thought about it, yeah, because it feels like sometimes that's the responsibility that's put upon us as women to kind of juggle all of those things and be able to manage it all.
It's disappointing, but it is still happening to this day.
It is still happening. Mm-hmm.
How important is it, especially moments like this, to see female doctors, female leaders in, visible places?
It's incredibly important. I think that one of the biggest things that we can do as women is promote each other, invite each other to the table, and be at the table in the first place, because if we don't have women in those leadership positions, their voices aren't heard. And that goes for anybody that has been marginalized in the past. So people of color or LGBTQ, and just making sure that there is diverse representation in leadership. It's incredibly important.
Switching gears a little bit, what is the biggest health issue that's facing women right now?
I think one of the things that has really come to the forefront recently, there's been a lot of healthcare issues that have come to the forefront because of the pandemic. But one thing that in my particular specialty that has really been, had a light shown on it is the fact that Black women have worse outcomes than white women. They're about 4 times more likely to die in childbirth than a white woman. And so that's something that we really need to evaluate and look at, and that's happening right here in the United States. So even though we think that we have amazing quality healthcare, and we generally do, there's still a lot of disparity that happens on many levels.
Being a woman in medicine, though, how different of a perspective, I guess, does it give you that some of these, specifically, fetal and maternal procedures, you have experienced yourself, you know what they feel like, and do you feel like you bring a different perspective?
I certainly think that is helpful. I have a lot of male colleagues, and they are amazing physicians, so I am not better in that sense. But I feel like a connection is always important. And so to be able to talk about what I've personally been through, whether it's talking about the childbirth, the pregnancy, maybe complications that I face, things like that, I think that's always helpful in a patient-physician relationship.
Research-wise, too, I'm sure having a woman researching new procedures and alongside someone during a surgery when you've sort of been there, done that is a very different perspective.
Yeah, so interestingly, there was a study, and probably familiar with it in the last couple of years, that talked about how female physicians have better outcomes in some areas than male physicians. Now, again, not to say that female physicians are better than male physicians, but I think what that study was demonstrating was that we can bring a different perspective. We can look at things differently. And the example that they gave was women who have heart attacks. They have different symptoms than men do, and so we have to recognize the differences there. And so a female cardiologist treating a female patient with a heart attack tended to do better. So again, I think that just highlights the fact that we need a diverse group of people sitting at leadership tables, making policies and coming up with plans of care for patients, because they're going to have better outcomes that way.
Absolutely, and we're lucky to have you at our very diverse table here today, and as well, at work, it's important to have. So thank you for joining us. And still to come, I know we've got from women who are helping to build their communities, we've also got innovators who are paving the way for the next generation. Our Women's History Month Chronicle will continue after the break, but first, a reminder that your comments are an incredibly important part of this show. Do you know a trailblazer in your community, or is there a Women's History Month story that you would like to share? If you'd like to be heard, email your comments to news@ketv.com. Remember, we really do love hearing from you. We'll be right back.